I have to admit, and this is coming from a Dallas Cowboys fan, the Philadelphia Eagles actually terrify me as a team. I mean, the way they're constructing their team is so freaking scary that I don't even think there's a single hole on this roster at this point. And you remember how I said in my biggest winners and losers video, once you are fully loaded at each and every position, that's when you decide to go after a running back? Well, it seems like that's what the Philadelphia Eagles are doing here. So before we get to the content, we are almost at 100K followers on my Instagram page. Once we get to 100K followers, we're going to be giving away $100 to multiple of my followers that turn on my notifications on Instagram. And now that we got all that out of the way, some of the green slips you guys have been sending me is crazy. Like $1,250 off of a $250 slip, or $1,500 off of a $150 power play. We've been making bank off of our basketball picks, bro. March Madness was a huge success, and believe me, we're about to ramp it up for the NBA playoffs. All you have to do is download Prize Picks, use my promo code Mikerophone, and they'll match your first deposit up to $100 instantly. After that, just follow me on Instagram. I post all of my picks onto my Instagram story for free, and we can start making money off of these picks together. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? In my biggest winners and losers video from day one of the NFL draft, there were two particular teams that I singled out for various reasons, one being a huge winner and another being, in my opinion, a huge loser. Now guys, whenever I say that these teams are the biggest winners and biggest losers, this is all based off of the draft value and draft stock of these players. It's not necessarily based off of whether or not these players are going to succeed in their new situations. For all you know, Jahmyr Gibbs is the next coming of Alvin Kamara, and this pick is what set up the Detroit Lions for dominance down the line. For all you know, Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith could be gigantic draft busts. We're just going based off of the value of these players based upon the draft process. I mean the Detroit Lions mercilessly for their picks. I mean, now that I have the opportunity to do so, I'm kind of questioning their third selection as well. Jared Goff's contract expires at the conclusion of the 2024 season. At that point, he is going to be 31 years old when he enters unrestricted free agency in 2025. So currently, he's 28 years old. Hendon Hooker, the Detroit Lions' third round pick, who is hoping to pick Jared Goff's brain like a sponge, is 25 years old. So at that point, he's probably going to be 27 years old. So I don't really understand what the plan here is. Is it to evaluate Hendon Hooker, or is it to develop Hendon Hooker, and by the time Jared Goff leaves, you pass the torch to a 27 or 28-year-old quarterback? Or is it to bring in another player to training camp to push Jared Goff and light a fire under his ass so he doesn't get complacent? Because from that perspective, I think it could actually work. I actually agree with the pick in that regard. But if that's Hendon Hooker's only role, that's kind of savage and a little cruel in my opinion. The Detroit Lions had an additional first-round pick this year as a result of the Matthew Stafford trade that they made with the Los Angeles Rams in the beginning of the 2021 offseason, when the Lions sent Matthew Stafford to the Rams for Jared Goff, a 2021 third-round pick, a 2022 first-round pick, and a 2023 first-round pick. And as a result of the Rams stinking it up this year, the Detroit Lions had the opportunity to select a number 12 overall this year. And with that pick, they decided to select Jahmyr Gibbs out of Alabama. Now, originally, if Bijan Robinson, who was considered by some to be the best player in this NFL draft, was selected at number 12 overall, I would have done a bit of a double take over there. But the fact that they selected Jahmyr Gibbs in this instance, a player that I thought would have been around in the second round, was a little bit more than head scratching as well. It's not that I have anything against Jahmyr Gibbs, and it's not like I want the Lions to fail. It's more the fact that I consider running backs to be a gigantic luxury pick. And when you also factor in the fact that the Detroit Lions already had DeAndre Swift and they signed David Montgomery, I feel like they could go into this season, look at their running back core, and feel more than confident about what they could achieve with the stable of running backs that they have. I mean, what pissed off Detroit Lions fans was this reaction when the Detroit Lions were able to officially select Jahmyr Gibbs, because most Lions fans were thinking that this was such a luxury pick in that the Lions had so many more pressing needs that it didn't really make sense to make this pick to begin with. At the end of the day, if he does fulfill his expectations, drafting a running back in the first round means you have an additional year of his rookie scale contract, especially if you exercise his 5th-year option, which could be very handy. But at that point, shouldn't you just trade to the end of the first round to get him? Well, let's focus on the new problem that the Lions have. They have way too many running backs in their running back room. How do they resolve it? Well, let's talk about a team that I think is a superstar in this NFL draft. If they didn't crush last year's NFL draft, then they most definitely crushed this year's NFL draft. Last year, the Philadelphia Eagles pulled up to the NFL draft and got Jalen Hurts his #1 wide receiver to pair with Devontae Smith by trading for A.J. Brown. But that's not all they did. They decided to draft Jordan Davis with the 13th pick in the NFL draft, and when they saw that Nakobe Dean was falling all the way to the 3rd round, they selected another Georgia Bulldog, the linebacker, with their 3rd round pick. And to be honest, I would say that the Philadelphia Eagles had a pretty good season. I would even say that their 2023 offseason was very successful as well. So you fast forward to this point, and the Philadelphia Eagles once again are dominating the NFL draft. Bear in mind, this is coming from a Dallas Cowboys fan. The most pressing need they had was filling the void that Javon Hargrave would leave, as Javon Hargrave recently left the Philadelphia Eagles after a remarkable season and signed a huge contract with the San Francisco 49ers. Well, that they did by selecting a player that a lot of people consider to be the top player in the NFL draft by trading up with the Chicago Bears to the 9th overall pick to select Jalen Carter. I honestly think the falling out of this pick was awesome because you had Drew Rosenhaus guaranteeing that Jalen Carter was going to be a top 10 pick despite all the controversy surrounding him with his driving incident that we've covered on this channel over the past couple of months, which prompted Drew Rosenhaus to post this epic video once it officially happened. Check it out.
And what happens if you're wrong? I won't be. I won't be.
But that wasn't the only feel-good moment we had, because when the Philadelphia Eagles had their media session in regards to the NFL draft, Howie Roseman was questioned about Jalen Carter. And look at how he stands up for him.
Jalen could be an impact player for us.
For both of you guys, we talked to Jalen on a Zoom call right after the pick. It's only a Zoom call. He just got drafted. I understand it's kind of unusual circumstances for the kid. But he was asked a few times about the incident in Athens, and he didn't come across, at least to me, as accountable about it. I know you guys are big on accountability.
Yeah, I don't think that's fair, Ruben. You just said that. I mean, what do you want him to talk about? An active investigation at that time? I mean, at the end of the day, he just got drafted, and you're asking him, you're putting him on the spot on that, and so.
What I'm asking is, what was his? When you talk to him about it,
I think it's hard on a Zoom to feel out a person's heart and their accountability.
With you and what he learned from it, how he grew from
Yeah,
it.
I just don't think it's fair how you said that you didn't feel like
You're
that.
being overly critical of a kid who's trying to enjoy the best night of his life.
Now, if that isn't cool enough, how about the fact that the Philadelphia Eagles continued hitting in the NFL draft? Not only did they select Jalen Carter, but they decided to select an edge rusher that was mocked in many mock drafts to go in the top 10. Yes, with the 30th pick in the first round of the NFL draft, the Philadelphia Eagles added Nolan Smith alongside Jalen Carter, Fletcher Cox, Hassan Reddick, Jordan Davis, and that's off the top of my head. I'm sure the list goes on and on. The Philadelphia Eagles currently have big play Darius Slay and James Bradbury as well, although Chauncey Gardner-Johnson did leave to the Detroit Lions. I digress. But there's another issue. The Philadelphia Eagles lost Miles Sanders during this offseason to the Carolina Panthers, and I think that was a right call by them. They try to make up that void by bringing in Rashad Penny, which I thought was an upgrade in of itself. I thought they were going to be fine with just Rashad Penny, but no, they disagree. They saw their opportunity to go ahead and get themselves a brand new running back. And man, is this one epic trade. Because according to Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter, the Detroit Lions are trading starting running back DeAndre Swift, sources tell Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissaro, sending him to the Philadelphia Eagles in exchange for draft pick compensation, with David Montgomery and now first rounder Jahmyr Gibbs Gibbs, DeAndre Swift heads out. So you might be wondering, okay, this is an epic trade. Why on earth would this happen? And what was the compensation? Well, when you see the compensation, you're going to kind of do a little bit of an eyebrow raise here. And it's not to say that the Detroit Lions did a bad job with trading DeAndre Swift at all whatsoever. I think their mind was made. The trade terms, per Adam Schefter, is that the Philadelphia Eagles get DeAndre Swift in a 7th round pick, which is number 249, whereas the Detroit Lions get a 4th round pick in 2025 and a 7th round pick, which is number 219. So my immediate reaction is, if the Detroit Lions felt like this was necessary, then they felt like this was necessary. DeAndre Swift has been in the NFL for 3 seasons. They felt like they had a starting running back in him, and in 2021, he was averaging 11.6 yards per carry. He was also a factor in the passing game as well. In 2021, he had 1,069 yards from scrimmage, but clearly the Lions felt like they were lacking in the running game, and that's why they went all in on revamping their running attack. They clearly viewed Jahmyr Gibbs as the equivalent to Alvin Kamara, and David Montgomery is a more than capable player to provide running support. There's something else that I need to bring to your attention, and for Detroit Lions fans, they'll get a lot of clarity as to why they were so aggressive in regards to their running back room this year. Dan Campbell comes from the Sean Payton coaching tree. What was a staple of Sean Payton's offense from 2017 to 2020? Dan Campbell was there from 2016 to 2020. Well, it was the duo of Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram. So what is Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions trying to do here? Well, they probably view Jahmyr Gibbs as the equivalent to Alvin Kamara, and they also view David Montgomery as the equivalent to Mark Ingram. And maybe it'll work out for them. That is what I'm assuming their vision is. So I don't necessarily blame them for making this trade and giving up on DeAndre Swift. And I honestly think the Philadelphia Eagles get a steal here, because how do you know that DeAndre Swift just didn't thrive in the type of situation that he was in with the Detroit Lions? The Detroit Lions have been making a lot of interesting decisions. They also drafted Hendon Hooker to come in and give Jared Goff some competition, but Hendon Hooker's just 3 years younger than Jared Goff, so I thought that was an interesting move as well. But I have to admit, for the Philadelphia Eagles, this is a huge A+. I mean, DeAndre Swift is going to be 24 years old this season. They pretty much traded DeAndre Swift for nothing, and they completely remade that running back room. If they go into this season with a similar type of offensive scheme that they had last season, well, I think this team's going to be very scary to play against. I give the Philadelphia Eagles an A+, whereas the Detroit Lions, it's difficult to grade here. They're cutting their losses with a player that I guess they don't really believe in much anymore, and they're getting decent value for him. You know, the fact that they aren't just releasing him outright and getting a 4th round pick and a 7th round pick trade up, I guess, is something. I guess I'll give him like a C+ for this trade. It's nothing I'd be excited about. It's definitely something that would make me a little uncomfortable if I'm a Lions fan. But if you're a Lions fan, I want to know what you guys think about your NFL draft so far. And if you're an Eagles fan, I know you guys are already celebrating. Let me know what you guys think about the trade in the comment section down below. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.